Hey everybody, welcome back to FeedbackLoop. I'm Jeremy.
And I'm Joey.
And we're talking about Porter Robinson this week.
Again!
A second time, exactly 1 year from when we last talked about Porter Robinson. Well, I mean, I feel like we've brought him up since then.
Yeah.
But this is the second time we've done a Porter Robinson album. And it's a year from the last time we talked about a Porter Robinson album.
Exactly a year.
As an episode. Exactly, to the day. And presumably hour, although I guess time's kind of wobbly that way.
Yeah,
but
who knows?
yeah, we're talking about Nurture, because Nurture came out like a week and a half ago now from us, so I guess two and a half weeks.
Has it really only been a week? It feels like a lifetime.
Yeah, it came out on the 23rd.
Yeah, that's a little.
Anyways,
under 2 weeks.
I've been excited for this album for a year, over a year even, because the first singles actually came out before we talked about Worlds, and I think I talked about them on the episode. But yeah, I'm fucking jazzed. I was this is like one of the most looked forward to albums, I think, for me, just because it's fucking. I loved Worlds. Worlds was fantastic, and I didn't know what we were getting with Nurture from the two singles that were out at the time, and it's out, and we're talking about it because
yeah, we are.
That's what we do. The album art of Nurture, which is the album, if I didn't say it, is just Porter laying face down in some like flowery field, just a field of flowers.
It looks so nice too.
It does. It looks kind of comfortable, even though I'm sure it was itchy as hell afterward. Just Porter in some jeans and a white shirt, face down in the grass.
And it's so crisp too. Like, I don't know if it's just like the picture that I have of the album, but it is like the most high definition picture I think I've ever fucking seen in my life.
It's fucking 20K resolution. But yeah, pretty simple album art. I think it's kind of funny, or at least thought provoking, in that the album is called Nurture, but it's him laying in nature, right? Which I think is a bigger theme, but I'll save the kind of general broad strokes of the album for the end, because that's just what we always do. It's tradition at this point that we do track by track first. Having said that, it's a very lifelike photo.
Yeah, extremely lifelike. Almost as lifelike as track number 1 of this album,
which is called Lifelike.
Boom!
Starting off strong, Joey. I think we mentioned this last week. We both knew that we liked this album.
Yeah.
Last week.
Yeah.
I mean, because it came out on the 23rd. We've been listening to it. But, like, there's no surprises here. But if you want to take the first track, we'll alternate from there.
Okay, man. Like,
or however we do. We don't really alternate anymore. We just kind of, whoever has the better segue quicker goes.
Just goes. Yeah. But, so, this intro, I mean, I guess it's an intro, because it's like, I guess 1 minute and 34 seconds long. It's not super long or anything, but the second it came on with that like little piano line to just bring it in, I was just like, I'm gonna love this. Like, I just have, there's no way that I'm not gonna love it. But then, so it's got like that, dun, 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 like, is that
it's kind of like an Eastern, like kind of like a Studio Ghibli kind of anime, kind of like, I don't know, just like foreign Japanese kind of piano. Like, it's very bright and happy and cheery and stuff. And that's an aesthetic that I think Porter strives for in a lot of his music, and on Worlds, and also on this album.
Yeah, and it's like he's got the strings coming in with it too, and it sounds so natural. Like, it sounds like I'd be in the place that he's laying down outside in, like listening to not just this song, but like parts of other songs. It feels like, I feel like he very much captured everything that he was feeling going into this album really well. And it's just a great expression of emotion, of just what he was going through in life. And this is what got me into it. From the second it started, I was in it. I was sold, and whatever he was going to say, I was going to be along for the ride.
Yeah, and I think that sums up perfectly the entire album here. So next week, what album are we talking about, Joey?
Next week? Oh, okay. I was like, wait a second, what?
But yeah, no, it's he nailed this album. I think I don't think anybody's going to be surprised by either of us saying that. Like,
yeah.
I cannot say it enough. I love this album.
Me too.
It's
I also
great.
love this album.
Lifelike, it's the perfect intro for the album, right? It has all of those qualities that you said, and it sums up the album perfectly.
Yeah.
I think it very much sets the mood, and it after hearing it, you just want to go out into the streets or into your backyard if you don't have. I guess everyone has streets unless they have like a really long driveway that they can quickly exit. Regardless, just run outside and look at the sky.
Yeah,
because it's so like it's lifelike. Right? it's so like life that you just want to look at the sky. And experience being alive.
And experience track number 2. Look at the sky.
Nailing it.
Hell yeah!
This song it's the new Porter sound. It's the new Porter Robinson sound, and it's perfect.
Yes.
It just, everything about it. It's got big beats. It's got delicate vocals and instrumentals. It's got these incredible synths. Everything about this track and the instrumentation and everything in this album really is just phenomenal. I cannot critique it in any way.
I feel the same way. And it's like, so Lifelike got me ready for the album. This is what plugged me in from the second. So it starts off, it's got kind of like a toned down first few seconds, but then it sounds like a cassette gets put into a tape deck, and it's got that like click, and that like that's when you know you're plugged into the song, like you're in it, and it's like you're inside of the music at that point. And it's like, I know he's straight away from EDM, and this isn't EDM. Like, I mean, there wasn't really a ton of like EDM or anything on Worlds. Like there was some of those bigger sounds, but this is like he's fine-tuned it. Like you said, this is his new sound, and he is like, it took 7 years for Nurture to come out after Worlds, and this is why, because it just sounds so great. I know he went through a lot of shit during that time, but this is a sign that he's at least coming to terms with whatever it was and has worked through a lot of it, and this is what came out on the other side, and I'm just really appreciative of the fact that this is what came out of it.
Yeah, like, and the fact that it exists at all.
Yes,
because like you said, he's been through a lot, and a lot of this album, including the song, is kind of talking about or how he dealt with his success after Worlds and what the next steps were after Worlds, right? Because obviously, like, he wasn't necessarily expecting to blow up the way he did with Worlds, and a lot of this album is just him processing that, and he struggled a lot, and which is kind of talked about a bit later in like Musician and stuff, where he almost quit music. Like he didn't feel like he could make another album that could possibly come close to Worlds because it was such a huge success, and he kept beating himself up about it, and he couldn't find anything that he liked, and he kind of like went into like this depression about it. So this whole album is like him growing through that, and he comes to a pretty good conclusion, I think, at the end of the album with how everything's really. He's such a cool dude. He's so humble, and I just like watching interviews and hearing him talk about his songs. It's always just a joy.
Yeah.
Even when he's talking about shit that he's been through, like he's such a human, you know, just feels natural to him.
He's definitely one of those people that like I like his personality almost as much as like I like the music. Like I maybe as much, I don't know, but like it's
so genuine.
Yeah, it's like each of them feed off of each other, so each of them become better because I like his music so much, and I like his music so much because I also like him as a person so much. And it's just, I don't know, like I don't feel this way often about musicians where it's like they just leave an impact on me, but like this album left an impact on me. I said it feels like it's been a lifetime since it came out because I feel like I've listened to it so much that like I've just like consumed it entirely.
Yeah, and it's so weird and phenomenal that he's been able to do that because, like I said, the album's been out for a week and a half. But even after the first listen of the album, you feel like you've heard it forever. It's just such like, it's almost like a nostalgia trigger in some way, but it's totally unique and it's totally like a new experience. And I don't know how he managed that feeling, but it's just, it's so good.
Yeah, and like speaking directly to the music outside of like the meaning and everything, he's like refining his sound. He's got like a sawtooth kind of high synth that plays the main melody in this song, and I just love the sound of it. Like it's so like it cuts through everything like a saw. It just cuts right to it. And then the way that he can put that big of a sound in it, and then back out to where it's just him and like the piano just singing, and it just feels so vulnerable. I mean, this whole album feels vulnerable, but like this is the start of it, and it's just it's I'm waving my hands a lot because I don't know what to do.
Yeah, no, it's definitely like, I don't know, it's a big theme throughout this album, the contrast of his natural kind of voice and natural sounds of what is commonly known as like music, right? But also the to contrast that is a lot of electronic sounds and a lot of synthesizers and stuff that would not be considered natural.
Yeah.
Right. So with the album being called Nurture, again, I'll get into this a bit later. One of the big themes in my mind, at least, that I picked up is nurture versus nature, where nurture is the more produced sounds on the album and nature is the more natural sounding, both with his vocals. Because again, it's Porter Robinson. He's known for having like kind of like a simulated high pitch, like an up pitched vocal track that sounds very childlike or very like feminine kind of a thing, but it's just his natural voice pitched up and amplified and modified and stuff like that. But also he does his own clean vocals a lot more on this album than in Worlds, and it's I don't know, I feel like in addition to the album being about his personal experience, it's also just kind of like finding the balance for him of who he is as a natural person versus nurturing something new from himself. And I think that's where the album title kind of comes from. Also, to add to that, I don't know if you looked at any of the single art, but as he was releasing singles and showing the art for each of the singles, they're all there's like a black backdrop with like white squiggles on one half of it, and then there's also on the other half like a photograph of something in nature, which is very much that kind of contrast of nature versus nurture. And that's what I think he was going for with the album, and he fucking nails it.
I gotta say, I agree, because, and it wasn't something I got off the bat, but it was like, I mean, I guess it was kind of early, but it was like I was writing notes for Lifelike, and I had written something about it sounding natural, and I was like, wait a second. But I 100% agree, because it's like, and even some of the themes where he's talked about like learned behaviors versus, I don't know, his own,
who he is.
Like we can talk about that.
Yeah, we'll talk about that a lot on this album, I think.
But so this song specifically, like there's talk of, we talked about like he went through some tough, like hard times in the period between Worlds and Nurture, trying to figure out who he is, and like there's a lot, like he was in a musical rut where he is talking about in this song being in that period of just not feeling creative, not feeling like he can live up to it, not feeling like he can, like imposter syndrome type stuff, where he's like, I'm not that person, or like that was a fluke or something. But in this song, he puts in the lyric, I can make something good, and it's like a direct quote of a tweet that he put out while he was in that rut, I guess. And I was reading, and like that's right before he kind of started putting out music as a Virtual Self,
right?
Which you actually turned me on to. It was not too long ago. I mean, I guess it was like right after the album came out, because I've only heard them a Virtual Self like, I guess, the day after this album came out or something. But I'm already on board with it, and I like. I'm glad that, I don't know if that's what did it, but I'm glad that he was able to find that avenue to make music to kind of reel himself back in.
For sure. And I haven't listened to the Virtual Self EP in a while. Probably not in the last like 2 years, honestly. But yeah, it's super good, and I'm glad it exists. And furthermore, I'm glad that it kind of helped him kind of play around with music that he wouldn't consider Porter Robinson music, and to help him kind of fine tune who Porter Robinson is and what he wants to make, and that he can make music again, which I'm so fortunate for. I think the world is better off with him making another album, because it's so genuine and it's so good.
It really is, and hopefully we can all get our wish for more Porter Robinson just
Yeah,
in the future. It'd be
I
great.
think it'd be great if you got your wish and we kept talking about Porter Robinson on track number 3. Get your wish.
This song. So this song is one of the early. This song was out when we did the first Porter Robinson song or Porter
Yes.
Robinson
Yeah,
episode,
this
and
was the first single.
I wish I would have heard it back then. Like I really wish I would have done a deep dive, like a deeper dive, and just like paid more attention to. I mean, I had listened to it. I think I actually have listened to this song before. I didn't think I had heard any of the singles, but like the more I listened to it, the kind of more familiar it sounded to me. But that also could just be like on the first listen, I felt like I had internalized this album in a
Yeah.
way. So that could be that. But I just wish I would have heard it last January. I wish I would have heard of Porter Robinson earlier. Honestly, is
Yeah,
what.
I mean,
But
I don't think it's a bad thing that you're going back, because I mean it's nice to have something to go back to, right? When you're
yeah,
like, because I don't know, I keep up with a lot of like new music releases, and I know you tend to find yourself listening to older stuff.
yeah,
So I don't know if there's some weird difference there, but I think it's nice to be able to go back to have some older content to kind of find. So like if you discover a new artist, like if they already have a backlog, then like there's a lot for you to still explore, which
yeah,
is kind of exciting. Whereas someone like me, where I listen to things as soon as they come out, and then I kind of can only move in one direction from it, right?
yeah,
It's kind of, I don't want to say it's robbing me of something, because there's definitely something about being on the edge and finding new music and being part of the excitement around it. But I don't think it's a bad thing that you were quote unquote late to the nurture party.
yeah. I guess it just goes between like having to wait but being a part of the release and everything, which is something I was really glad to be a part of this time. Like I'm glad I just looked up at the date that I started my little like OneNote for these
Yeah,
notes, and it said April 23rd, like 7 a.m. or something, and I was like, yes. I was
yeah,
listening to it within like 8 hours of it dropping, and already like had shit to say about it, and it was
yeah.
just that's a cool feeling. But
For sure. And as I think I mentioned it last week, this is the only album that we've done where I've preemptively, like, I've started my notes so early,
yeah,
because the album dropped on Friday. Saturday he did Secret Sky, which was his virtual festival kind of a thing. And I think by Saturday night or on Sunday, I had already written like 2 paragraphs of just like general album vibe thoughts,
yeah,
which never happens with me, and it's just exciting and it's good. But yeah, Get Your Wish. It was the lead single back in January. It's got lots of lovely like voicey synths, great clean drums. It's a very almost Worlds sounding track. It's one of the more Worlds sounding tracks, I think,
yeah.
on this album. The fucking chorus kicks in and just drowns you in this like wash of deep synths, and it's just it's beautiful.
It really is beautiful, and just so it does sound worlds esque, and I like that he can. You can tell where the roots are, but like it's it's really cool to see the difference in sound. Like it has. I feel like even with how like drowning in the sense it is, and like how big it sounds,
Yeah,
there's still like a restraint to it,
for
and I
sure.
feel like that comes from the realization that he ended up having, I
Yeah,
guess.
there's
But
a lot of like delicate sounds as well
yeah,
throughout the whole album and this song, where it's kind of that contrast of big, of who he used to be, right, versus who he is now, which again, kind of what we talked about, nurture versus nature. I'll get
yeah,
into that a bit later as well.
yeah, and I mean the drums are pretty funky on this song too. Like that's something that
Yeah,
I wasn't expecting. It's got like a cool little drum part going on in there, but which I mean I know drum and like not that this is drum and bass, but like electronics known for like
right.
kicking and like all that stuff. But it's
A lot
the
of big booms.
yeah, like to have an actually cool drum part that's like drums in an album that would come out of kind of this general genre, I feel like is a really special thing that
Yeah,
he would put in kind of like yeah, mixing instrument like actual instruments with like synths and
yeah. He
electronic
put like,
instruments.
I guess I don't know how much he thought about it. I mean, I assume that he thought a lot about what instruments and what sounds to use in every single track, and that extends to the drums, where, like you said, in a lot of electronic music. I feel like it's not really an afterthought, but that there's like everyone loves like a big 808 sound, and they have like preset sounds that they already just kind of like layer under everything. But even in this album, from like track to track, the drums change and he has different sounds for it, and they all fit so well. Just he did a really great job at making this album in every aspect.
Yeah, it's man, I feel like I'm just gushing, but you know what? I'm gonna deal with it because
this is gonna be like a 2-hour episode because we're just gonna be gushing over and over again and repeating ourselves. So if you're not a fan of this album, or if you're not a fan of us hearing, or a fan of hearing us just gush over an album for 2 hours, you might want to tune out now. It's actually a bit too late for that. But if you made it this far, fucking get out of here, man.
Yeah,
We don't need your hate. But lyrically, Get Your Wish, it's similar to the theme of the rest of the album about his kind of self-defeat and thinking he won't be able to make music again. This one more specifically seems kind of like he's criticizing the critic in himself, saying that he doesn't need to hit a world's level success kind of a thing, and he doesn't need the fame and the fortune and the recognition and stuff of what Worlds was. And he kind of tongue-in-cheek like talks about himself in the third person, I guess, where he says like you walked on water, implying that he was like achieving some godlike status with Worlds. And he's such a humble dude for kind of taking a step back from that and realizing that that's not what made him happy, and he just wants to make music kind of thing, which is pretty much what his end conclusion was.
Yeah, like the realization that there's other reasons to make it. Like I mean, I couldn't help from reading interviews and stuff from him because it was just so interesting.
And to add to that, every time he released a single over the past year, he's talked about the song on the same time. Like it's in the video descriptions and everything. He's always tweeting about it. He's talked a lot about this album.
Yeah, and this song, like just from the stuff I read and like listened to, he was talking about music that has impacted him and like wanting to be able to give that to other people, and then that's kind of what helped him along, like realizing that people made music that had this impact on me, and then I want to be able to make music that has this impact on other people, and realizing that that's what it's about, rather than, I don't know, making the big stuff, like making music for other people, but doing it by being true to yourself, I guess, rather than like making music that's true, and the realness of it is what can resonate
making
with
music for the human aspect of the people and not the numbers or the commercial aspect of people.
Exactly. And it's a really admirable goal.
For sure. It's inspiring.
Yeah.
I think every musician should strive for that, but obviously that's not the case.
Yeah.
Track number 4.
Yeah, I don't know, but
is Wind Tempos.
Hell yeah, Wind Tempos, dude! I fucking love this song.
Yeah, Joey, we're recording on Zencastr, and when Joey logs into Zencastr, he can put in a name because I just give him a link and he logs in as a guest or whatever. And his name this week is So Holy, which T's spoiler alert is one of the only like phrases in the song.
Yeah, and it is so. Okay, so for the first little bit that I was listening to this, I wasn't looking at lyrics. I was just taking it in.
Yeah,
and
it's a lot to take in.
Yeah, like I thought it was saying something like "it's so holy" and then "it's so hostile," but I'm not seeing that anywhere. But that's like just what I heard. That he was talking about the duality of kind of his relationship with the past. Like he felt good. He felt like he had done good with Worlds, but also like with it came all this shit that he had to deal with.
Right.
But come to find out, that's not what's in there. But
I mean, I think it's still relevant. I think it still is very much the truth.
Yeah.
If not being explicitly like explained by him.
And then the actual vocal sample, I'll just start with that because that is something that like was just so jarring, but in a really good way. It's like, so it starts off with kind of this, I don't know, it's like, it's got a repeating piano that kind of forms a beat for the other melodies to kind of come in off of, which is
Right.
already something like using instruments in unconventional ways. Like the piano becomes kind of the backdrop in a beat way rather than in
Yeah,
a
it
melody
becomes
way.
kind of like a droning sound is more than like a melodic sound, I guess.
Yeah, and it's like this is where I was just like, I fucking love his new sound. Like it is
Yeah,
amazing. And I mean, Worlds had some stuff that was in the same vein, but he like
he
you
leaned
can
into it a bit more.
yeah, he really leaned into it, and it's just awesome. But it sounds like so serene, like there's an awakening, like light strings are swelling up, and then it sounds like it's just broken by like
Yeah,
what sounds like a Chewbacca sample almost. Like, and I don't mean this in any bad way. It's just like that's my immediate reaction is like it's like a loud, like heavily distorted vocal sample that sounds like that. It doesn't necessarily sound exactly like Chewbacca or something, but
right.
like it sounds kind of like that. But then it kind of sticks and gets a little bit slower, and it morphs ever so like subtly into the actual vocal sample where it starts in like the "It's So Holy" part. And
Yeah,
whenever I heard that, I was just like, "Oh my fucking god, this is
yeah.
amazing!"
This song is such a fucking trip because, like I said, it starts off with just like the piano and the strings. It's just this very like kind of exploratory track for the first half of the song, and it just kind of like makes me feel like I'm just like floating on a wind, kind of like flying very quickly through like a lot of different scenes and like scenery and stuff, and experiencing all sorts of new like stimuli and stuff until about like halfway through the track there's this kind of epiphany moment where the vocal sample actually comes in, which is saying "It's So Holy," and when it does, it like everything just cuts out, and
Mhm.
it's so like soft and gentle, and that moment reminds me of one of my favorite like video game moments tied to uh, the score of the video game, that's BioShock Infinite. And it's not super spoilery because it happens at the very beginning of the game, but at the beginning of the game you get shot up into the sky, and it's kind of against your will, like your character's kind of freaking out and you're in first person or whatever, and you're like strapped to this chair being shot up into the sky, and the strings are going crazy, and it's getting like like you can feel it's building, and it's frantic and stuff, and then you breach the clouds above and you see the city that the game place takes in, which is a city in the clouds, and it all just cuts out, and you just hear this very like soft piano playing the chords for "Will the Circle Be Unbroken," and it's just that moment of epiphany is just such a beautiful like transition, I think, to me, and he does something very similar on this track, and it gives me goosebumps just talking about it and thinking about it, because I love that kind of like the immediate contrast of kind of panic and beauty just like
Yeah.
juxtaposed right next to each other so quickly. I love it.
Oh, God, it's so good. Like, and then so on along with that, like you can everything strips back and it's like the piano kind of going on like lightly in the vocal loop or the
Yeah,
vocal like melody and everything. And then there's just like the little details that you can hear like mouse clicks
yeah,
happening in the back. And it's like it feels like with everything that just with the whole direction that you just went on in this song, it almost feels like you're with him, make like you're like next to him as he's like mixing the track or something,
right.
and it's just like it's a super cool feel, and it's like you're right there next to him as the music is being made as you're listening to it, and it's just like
Yes,
a
it's
cool
so cool.
feel.
There's this like kind of like a lo-fi fuzz kind of thing that he uses throughout the album for moments like this, and this is, I think this is the first example of that on the album, but it's just like you said, it's hearing him making the song as you're listening to it and arranging the song, and he's clicking and the samples are looping and you can hear it where it's like in time to him clicking and typing on it, or playing on his keyboard and stuff, where he's just playing around, and it's so it's such a weird experience hearing a song being made as you're listening to it on an album kind of a thing. And with that lo-fi fuzz, it kind of gives you the feeling of some of like a phone recording, like he's just set up his iPhone beside him while he's making the music and he's just recording what it sounds like as he's making it, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And I think that to me at least, I got from it is that it's kind of furthering the nature aspect versus the very clean and mastered, nurtured kind of music aspect of it. So it's very like fuzzy, and it sounds like a phone recording as he's making the track, and it's very like natural sounding because you're just like watching him in his environment thing. And then at the end, that fuzz goes away and it returns to the piano sound from the beginning. This time it's completely clean. It doesn't have that kind of lo-fi filter, and it's like the nurtured result of the track, where there was the natural track, and now it's cleaned up and it's processed and it's been edited, and it's not the natural sound as much as the product of it, which is what I'm considering like a nurtured product.
God damn. It's
so cool.
It is. It really is, especially because I feel like, I don't know, just like the way he does that, because the fuzz kicks out and then it's kind of like the more produced version of the song as it leads into the next song, which picks it. Like, I feel like this album was so curated, and like it's like, and I mean, it's a super personal album, and you can feel it in the moments like you get in Wind Tempos, like, and it's just like you can tell that he's like, this is him just like bearing everything that he's felt, and he's like, I made it, I got through all of it. This is like, I worked on this, I poured what I had into this, and here it is now. And it's just very vulnerable, and
it is. And it's
super
very intimate,
awesome,
which is never a bad thing in music, I think.
Yeah.
Lyrically, though, this one, the only lyrics, he says, "It's so holy to point out to you, to dream of you, so I'll dream," which to me, it kind of like, it ties in to the theme of like becoming your idols that is splashed throughout the album. And it's to me about like Porter, again, wanting to get the glory, like you mentioned in Get Your Wish, and in this track he's kind of like dreaming of becoming a successful musician that he wants to be.
And he is.
And track number 5, musician.
Oh, yeah, musician. Oh, shit.
It was a segue.
Sorry,
it was a lyrical segue that I was debating not doing, so if you have any other lyrical tips to address.
You're fine. You hit everything that I would have hit. It's just, one thing that shocks me is hearing him write music, like in Musician, or in just themes of this song, hearing somebody as talented as him, as somebody who works as hard at his craft as him, talk about stuff like that. It just goes to show you, like, no matter what stage you're at, it's like you're always going to have that feeling, and I feel like that's just something that he's been grappling with. So it's kind of like, it's a moment. Listening to this album was very much a moment. It's like, you're not too old. You haven't gone through too much shit. You haven't got, the feelings you're feeling are normal. Just don't get swept up in them.
Right.
And work. If you can put in the work, something can come out of it. And it's just, it's very, him as a musician.
You can make something good.
Yeah, you can make something good. But this one, we were talking about kind of the fuzz kick dropping out at the end of Wind Tempos, and it was like the more produced, it leads into Musician, which this one picks up the energy from Wind Tempos like immediately. It's like, I like every sound that he brings to this album, because it's like he's got the kind of updated big sound that he puts on like Musician and like Get Your Wish and stuff, the stuff that you can feel where it's like bigger. And then the stuff from like Wind Tempos, it's more scaled back, or more kind of, I guess, experimental is like, and he just really nails it. Like, I like this energetic feel as well. It doesn't sound too like dancey, I guess. It like, you could definitely, like, you want to move to it, but it doesn't sound like that typical dance music. I don't want people to think I'm getting into that area because
you don't dance.
No, I don't dance at all. But it's just a good mix, and like, I know he did a lot of sampling work on Worlds, but I really, really love the sampling work that he does on this album, especially in this song. Whenever I like figured out,
yeah, I was gonna ask if you looked at he released a video showing how he made the kind of vocal sample that's used to accent the beat and kind of make the beat for this album. It's actually a chopped up vocal section from a track that he made with Caro Caro Bonito, who also played a Secret Sky, by the way, pretty good set as well. But they never released that track, so he kind of like chopped it up and used the vocals from that track to make the kind of baseline sample beat on this track.
And it's fucking awesome. Like,
also,
it's just
talking of samples, it's got the Woo Yeah sample of like, James
yeah.
Brown in the background. It's got like a very like hip hoppy beat kind of vibe to it, but it's not a hip hop track necessarily. I mean, I guess at some points even like the sampling kind of goes into like a kind of a hip hop breakdown kind of a thing, but it's still got that classic Porter like pitched vocals and style to it.
Man, that samples from It Takes Two. It takes two to make things alright.
Well, that's the what's that, Rob Bass and what DJ? It's Easy something, right? What's the fucking?
I don't know.
I don't remember, but that was like the '90s hip hop thing. But even that was sampling.
That was yeah.
It was like James Brown, and I don't. It's a big popular sample. The woo yeah woo. It was a big thing in '90s hip hop and stuff, but it was a thing before that as well.
Well, you know what? I was born in the '90s, so everything that's good came from the '90s.
It's true. It's not true.
But yeah, no. Most things that came out of the '90s are not that great, actually.
Yeah, example, us.
Yeah. Huge, prime example.
Yes. But lyrically, as mentioned several times at this point, the song's kind of talking about his conflict of how he felt after releasing Worlds. He discovered that he wanted to make music that people related to, and people, or music that would affect people and supported people, and that's what Nurture is. And this song is like the most fine point, at least lyrically, that you can put on that, where he's like literally just calling himself out and saying like, what, do you expect it to be easy? Just fucking, oh yeah, just become your idols is one of the things he says, or become your heroes or something like that.
Yeah, I think he says like, all you have to do is become your heroes. And
yeah, he says, how do you do music? Well, it's easy. You just face your fears and you become your heroes. I don't understand why you're freaking out. Like, obviously it's tongue-in-cheek. It's not that easy. You can't just face your fears and become your heroes kind of thing. But that's also kind of what you have to do, right? You just gotta fucking do it.
And he did it. And
he did it.
Oh my god. It's,
now he's my heroes.
And a lot of musicians also they practice their scales by doing do, ra, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. What am I, Shooby Taylor?
You're a stout-hearted man for sure, Joey. Track number 6, the segue that Joey almost nailed.
So close.
Is do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do.
Nice. So this one, it scales it back down. It starts off with like a nice little guitar like riff. It gets a little glitchy. He's got some like what he did on Wind Tempos, kind of mixes it up a little bit, chopped and screwed, type stuff. But right. I really fucking like this guitar line. Like it feels like it's just oozing, and it's just like I'm just super cool when I'm listeing to it.
Yeah, it feels like I'm driving around on a summer day, and it's just like. It's kind of just like a joyful little journey kind of a thing with some, like you said, some glitchy guitar, simple beat kind of thing going on. It's a very playful sounding song, and there's like a vocal sample in it of like, it sounds like Kirby to me.
Yeah.
It's like some Kirby sounding thing. He tweeted about it saying one interesting thing is that a lot of people tend to hear their own language in the little, quote, children at the playground, unquote, Foley samples in Do Re Mi. He hears "Wait Up" because his little voice going, and he said that people in Japan have been hearing "Ohayu," which I think is "Good Morning," and he said it's actually in neither of those languages. So I don't know what he's actually sampling there, but to me it just sounds like Kirby, just kind of like cheering.
I thought it sounded like a video game character nondescript saying "Hey ya," like "Hey ya" type. Yeah, exactly. It's Andre 3000. Like, that's who it was. We all know.
This album is featuring Andre 3000. The
Who knows?
collaboration we never expected.
Oh my god, one for the century.
But yeah, lyrically, to me, the song, it's pretty short lyrically. But what I got from it is he's talking about how music can express ideas and feelings in a way that words can't without writing like a full fucking essay.
Yeah, and I like that's something we've talked about before. Like,
yeah,
just, and I mean, saying we've talked, everybody's fucking talked about it before. That's what music is.
No, it's
but
just
like,
us. We everything we say on this podcast is cutting edge. You know, it's unique. We're the only persons who have ever thought of it. This is the most original podcast in the world.
Yeah, it's original if your basis for originality is we've never made a podcast before, so it's pretty original. But but yeah, like, it's just super cool because I mean, you described it as driving around on a summer day. I described it as like I'm flying on a warm day, which is kind of like a general feeling.
Sure.
But it's just so cool how the only lyrics in the song are "There's too much I want to say, so do re mi fa sol la ti do. All I want is said and done." And it's just, he just does that, but it's the music that can put you in a mood or in a space outside of that. And it's great because I don't know, man. It just transports you to another world. I know this isn't Worlds, but it puts you in another world.
We'll come back to that concept of it being another world, I think, later, because I have some notes on it. But yeah, I don't know. He wanted this album to release in the springtime, and he is so relieved that he was able to do that. And I can see why. Like, it is the perfect time of year to be listening to this kind of music, I think. And it's he fucking nailed the feeling of it. He nailed it. He fucking knocked it out of the park. More gushing words for Mr. Porter Robinson for killing this album.
Yeah, and the next step I feel like in my gushing would be just calling his mother and telling her how great
how proud we are of Porter.
Yeah,
and I'm sure she's telling him how proud she is of him as well.
Yeah, because I mean, he wrote a whole song, track number 7, Mother.
Yeah, the song's got some big energy to it, but it's not like super fast tempo or anything. It's interesting. It's got this big ass snare sound that just kind of like sounds like a balloon popping, but because that's how it introduces the song with this big like snare hit, and then the song starts kind of a thing. But after that, it gets mixed down a little bit, but it's still the same snare. It's just kind of an interesting choice. There's some really like thick sub bass going on, growling under the whole song. And I wrote, this whole song just feels.
Yeah, it really does. Like, it starts off, whatever that opening sound is, it reminds me of a rocket ship. Like, as soon as it comes in, not necessarily like it sounds like a rocket ship, I guess. I don't know how to describe it, but like, I hear it, and in my mind there is a rocket ship.
Right.
Which I don't know. I feel like a lot of my talks on music in this general like genre get very like heady, where it's like, yeah, I just hear this synth and it sounds like this perfectly specific situation.
Well, but I think that's just part of like an inner creativity thing, right? Like every sound means something to you, and mixing of sounds kind of paints a picture, for lack of better words.
Yeah, but this sound, like, yeah, it's big, but it doesn't sound like it's trying to be huge,
right?
And it still sounds very personal, which I mean makes sense given what the song's about. But I really like the glitchy ambient sounds that are kind of going on in the background to keep it grounded.
Yeah.
I'd say it's just, I feel like that's something that I really appreciate. Like, I know that he's doing it on purpose, but it feels so like it's just there, kind of like a lot of the stuff in the background, which is just mind blowing to me. How
natural it comes to him.
Yeah, like
just put in the arrangement the way that he does, and create the sounds he does. It's flawless.
It is. It really is. Flawless is the perfect word for this whole album.
Which is ironic because it's very like glitchy and flawed sounding, I suppose, at points. But it's all intentional, and he fucking knocked it out of the park yet again. lyrically, this one, I actually watched an interview I think it was this past weekend, with him, where he talked. He didn't talk about this track specifically, but he talked about the content of the lyrics in this track, he said he had this big fear of moving out of his parents' house and feeling like he was never going to see his family again, or he's never going to see his dog again. And he was very close to them, so he was always afraid of moving out because he just kind of like hyper sensationalized it and thought that that was the end of an era, kind of a thing. Obviously, it's not the truth, but the song is also about that kind of that feeling of not ever seeing that fear of never like seeing his family again. But also, it's a bit more generalized and relatable about like just fear of growing up and not having the comforts and safety of having like your mother catch you when you fuck up, kind of a thing.
Yeah, and man, it's just like, I don't know, hearing some of the other songs on this album, and like, I don't know, hearing this song in particular, where just like the chorus too, like just the "I'm on your side for the rest of your life. You'll never be alone. Don't you worry, my child." And now there's an empty room you outgrew, but I'm here for you. Is like intense to hear after like other stuff that's been on this out. Like it's I don't know how else to describe it other than like I was sitting here like I had to stop writing notes even after I had listened to this whole album like 4 times, like every time that I got to this album or this song, because I was just like, shit, man.
Yeah.
Like it's just hearing all the like mental deals that he's had to deal with, or that he did deal with after just over the past in the gap between albums. And it's like hearing him talk about, I don't know, his family this way, his mom this way, is just insane.
Yeah,
it's a lot.
I was kind of curious how you'd feel about this album, because as I was listening to it, even before like looking into the lyrics, I knew that there were several times where he kind of mentioned things being nostalgic, and we talk a lot about you being like hyper nostalgic in some ways, and kind of focusing on that. Like even in the song, he's going so far back as to when he was born, right? He says, "I was born in a sudden embrace, I'm awake, so I study the shape of your face," kind of thing, talking about when he was young and like growing up and being a teenager. And he says, "Then at once I'm checking the doors and my weight, I can't keep my hands from my face. I said, 'Mom, I'm so sorry.'" And just that kind of like the pressure of being a kid and fucking up and like running to your mom and feeling like shit, and she's just like, "It's okay," kind of thing. I was wondering if that kind of nostalgic content like resonated with you in a certain way, and I guess if the song hits you that way, it did to some extent.
Normally it doesn't. Normally, like family related stuff, I mean, like I have plenty of good memories from being a kid, but my nostalgia kind of keeps me in the time where like I was at the moment he was afraid of in this song, where like I'm leaving.
You were free.
I'm free. And because freedom isn't like, it's
Freedom's just another word.
Oh, nothing left to lose. But it's I don't know, it's a moment like I haven't had a ton of like true freedom in my life, or I hadn't, at least at that point. And then like, so that's where my mind takes me, because it's like the point where you're on your own. But hearing this song in the context of all the other emotions that he's going through is like, I don't know, it just it's written so well that I can like be in feel like I'm in his mind whenever he's writing it, and feeling what he's feeling, where it's like this huge relief, and also like he doesn't have to be scared anymore, or his parents are proud of him, like his mom's like, what you're doing, we will support you, like you are supported, and you don't have to feel like you live up to whatever you think you have to, because we're here for you, type thing. And it's just that's
a good takeaway. I didn't really think about that, but that definitely gives the song more weight on the album, I think, surrounding all of the shit that he's been through, kind of thing. Just having a cheerleader there for you that's never gonna just be like, "Nah, sorry, you're not my son anymore," kind of the thing. Which it happens, that does happen, and I feel for everyone who has had a parent kind of act that way. or leave them, because that shit's fucked up.
Yeah. Well, especially coming from a musician, one of the lyrics we didn't really talk about was in like the pre-chorus, it's like, then they say, fine, well, what do you need to do? But I don't want to see you wasting your life. Now isn't it time you get a job?
Right.
It's like there's so many even parents that would react that way to their kid wanting to do what he does, and to have that support system is awesome.
Yeah, I think that's a very astute observation. Having him go from musician, where he's talking about that, and fear of not having a music career anymore because music means everything to him, kind of a thing, and how the normal route would be to, okay, well, now I'm done. I've got to get a job now. I've got to do normal things, and having mother come in and kind of catch him from that and say, no, like, fucking chase your dreams. You can do this. You've proved you can do this, kind of a thing. You got to keep doing this because it's what you were born to do, kind of a thing. It's nice. It's a nice touch. It's a touch that's much nicer than that of some sort of dull scythe sweeping across a field.
Yeah. And also, it's a nice touch that leads us into track number 8, Dull Scythe.
Hell yeah. This song is a fucking trip.
Hell yeah.
It comes so far out of left field, the left grass field where he's been chopping weeds with some sort of dull scythe, I suppose. But there's a lot of, like, there's no consistent tempo in it. There's a bunch of samples. It's just a fucking mess. You've got some of the staticky ambient room noise again. You can hear the clicky sounds again, like you're just sitting beside Porter, or like you're hearing a phone recording of Porter when he's in his room, just kind of mixing stuff and arranging stuff, and is playing it. It's very, like, non-musical since it's so scattered, but I think it's an interesting way to break up the album halfway through.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I really like the crazy sampling work with, like, the first half, and it starts picking up and the song's just getting nuts, and then it kind of eases back down. Like, it become not like back down and like it loses a ton of energy, I guess, but like it stops being so erratic near the end. And like the way that I pictured this song is like you're walking through the woods and you're like walking through some like thorny branches, or some, like, stuff's hitting you, like you gotta like close your eyes and you're just like, oh shit, what's going on? And then you like break through and you open your eyes and there's just like a waterfall in front of you, and you're just like, you broke through this like insanity to see something insanely beautiful. And I mean, I like the thorns, but it's just, I don't know.
I like the bane.
Give me the bane.
Yeah, it's an interesting track. It's an instrumental track, so there's no lyrical content there, but it's the halfway point in the album. It definitely, like, I think it does it serves its purpose of like kind of resetting the momentum after Mother being kind of heavy and somber and sad, kind of a thing.
Yeah,
and it also sets up for some pretty sweet time to come in the next half of the album.
Really took your sweet time getting to that one.
Exactly. Track number 9 is Sweet Time.
Oh shit. Yeah, after like Dull Scythe ends with the kind of nice like piano key section, this one, it gets even softer. You think it's gonna crank it back up? No, it gets softer, and it's got like the intro is just this warm, continuous sound that kind of like, it's backed up by like a muted drum, and it's like you're slowly leaning back into a pool of water. It's just like so like slow and soft, and it's, I don't know, it's just very emotional, and it like wraps you in the emotion like a blanket.
Yeah, there's not a lot going on musically because it's kind of like a ballady, kind of spacey almost song, kind of thing, where there's not, it's kind of ambient and floaty, like you said, like you're just kind of like leaning back into a warm pool and just kind of existing. But so yeah, there's not a ton going on lyrically or musically with it, but lyrically it seemed, at least what I got, is how he's talking about how he always wanted to live fast and always move on to the next thing quickly, and now he's met someone that he has such a genuine connection with and feels a genuine love for, that he wants to spend as much time as possible getting to know them, even going so far as to say that he wants a second life after this one to continue growing and learning about the person.
Yeah, it's very much like his version of a love song. I mean, it is a love song, but like the
It's
way
not the love song on this album though.
it's not the love song, but it is a song about loving someone so much that you're actually afraid of dying,
Right.
as he put it. And I mean, it is in the first verse. It ends, and I feel so stupid because I wasn't scared of this before, but since I met you, I don't want to die no more.
Right.
Like, it's a sentiment that, like, I feel is decently relatable, like, at least to me. And I mean, probably to somebody, I don't know, if I was out there fucking making bangers with worlds, like, I'd be like, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Whatever. I mean, I don't think he had that reaction to it, but like, he probably wasn't thinking about, like, yeah, I'm super scared of dying right now. Like,
for sure. And I think that's like, I think it's kind of easing us into the last half of this album, because the theme kind of shifts to where he's not spending time present, right? He's dwelling on things in the past and thinking about things in the future, and he's just trying to make the next worlds happen, kind of a thing. And this is the second, like the whole last half of this album, he's kind of criticizing himself for that, and he's not wanting to be worrying about that shit. He wants to just be here now and just take in life as it comes, kind of a thing, instead of like trying to achieve some greatness that's off in the distance that I'll never get to, kind of a thing.
It's a very beautiful sentiment in this song, and he's just very good at crafting words together. I mean, he writes poetry, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, and it's awesome to hear that out of, I don't know, I feel like a lot of music that is more electronic, I feel like doesn't pay as much attention to lyrics,
Right.
at least in making them like beautiful, symbolic lyrics. Like, yeah, they have good themes, but it's like, it's not poetry, and this is, I guess.
Right. It's not, there's not as much thought put into a lot of the lyric content of like a lot of electronic music, even with a lot of shit that I normally listen to. Like, it's kind of become generic, where you like you have a vocal hook, which is just kind of something that's like vague but also like relatable and profound in some very simple way, and people just cling to it, and then that's it for the lyrical content, and then you just focus on making music, which is fine. I don't want to like sell it short necessarily, because if music is what you're wanting to focus on, I don't think you should have to spend as much time as Porter Robinson thinking about your lyrics and putting so much time and effort into that. That being said, Porter Robinson nails both aspects of it, and he clearly spends so much time crafting every song, and it's so evident, and he fucking kills it.
Man, I fucking love that we just, like, I love that this is the first like new album that we did, and that it was so good, and that it's just, I like getting to come on here and being like, yeah, this music was great. Oh, but like, this is why it was great. And oh yeah, that was great. But this is also why it's great. And yeah, that's great.
That's our podcast, Joey. Until one of us hates an album. Like hella.
You would bring that up on such sacred of days, would you?
I mean, it wouldn't be FeedbackLoop if I didn't.
That's very true.
Maybe I need to go take a long, hard look in the mirror and figure out why it's so prominent in my mind.
Yeah, and maybe you also need to listen to track 10 while you're doing it, because then you might be in a better mood, I guess.
You mean Mirror?
Yeah, track 10, Mirror.
Yeah, this one, it kind of slowly eases you back into the upbeat kind of electronic sound, but it has like a calmer intro. The first verse is also like super simple and subdued, with mostly just like a backing drone with a beat, and then his vocals are there. The chorus kind of comes in with some more synths and some more pitched vocals, kind of making it a more like typical Porter Robinson track, I think.
Yeah, it's definitely, I don't know, like some things that I liked about it were like that vocal sample. It's got the same, it doesn't necessarily sound like the vocal sample from Wind Tempos, but it's got a similar style of distortion on it, like crunchiness, and I just like that sound a lot, and kind of the like a drum beat that kind of has that same distortion over it, but then it's got like a super cool solo.
Yeah.
Like, I guess not it's like a little bit over halfway through the song, and it kind of like right after that solo ends, the solo makes me feel like I'm in a safari. I don't know. Well, I've never been on safari. I don't know what it's like, but
You've
it
been
just
on an audio safari with this album.
that is very true. You know what? Yeah, this solo reminds me of a safari, and my only reference for a safari is this album.
Yes.
So really, the song makes me think of this song.
Nailed it.
But then like the solo ends, and it's just got like the piano and the vocals. It kind of slows down a bit after that, and it just kind of, I mean, it builds back up after that for a little bit, but then it's like I do like how the solo comes in. It's got like that nice little bridge part that's a little quieter.
It's pretty good song. This was also one of the singles. I don't remember like falling in love with this track when it came out, but it definitely like it grew on me. That's kind of like a common theme with almost every single that he released. I would listen to it. I'm like, okay, that's good. I'm interested to see how it falls within the album. Was my thought for a lot of it, and this was not an exception. And I was, gosh, I wasn't wrong in thinking that because he fucking nailed it with kind of I think what you were mentioning earlier with how he planned out the album structure from like track to track. Everything just falls into place perfectly, and this track just it really shines in the spot that it is in the context of the album more than as a single, in my opinion.
Yeah, he really like not only did he hit it with crafting the sound of his songs, he really hit it like perfectly with album crafting, which is like something that I really really like. Like, I mean, I know most albums have like a general through line, and that's fine, but like this is like, I don't know, this is one of those albums that it's like I want to listen to the whole album.
Right.
To fully experience, like you need to listen to the full album to fully experience everything about it, I guess.
Yeah. I think that's 100% true, because a lot of the songs, they're great as singles, and obviously like you get fucking Get Your Wish, which is a banger. You get fucking Something Comforting, which is coming up next, and we'll talk about that. But like a lot of them, like I said, I think within the context of the album have so much more power, and they feel so much better when kind of like listening to the full body of work. Lyrically, Mirror is a track about confronting his fear of criticism that kind of kept him from making music, where he was afraid that people would hate his music, and then he kind of realized that it's awful to live in fear of that because it prevents you from growing and experimenting and making new things, and accepting that it's okay to have failures because that kind of like makes you who you are in a lot of ways.
Yeah, this song, like, I feel like it's meta in the way that like it's talking about learning. I don't know, I guess that's not meta, but like it's like talking about coming to a realization in a song or in an album that's like all about, like, it's a realization tucked into a larger realization, I guess is what I was getting at. But it's him kind of confronting the criticism that he gets and being like, yeah, I could, instead of, like you said, instead of cowering in fear, not trying to paint him as somebody who cowers in fear, but like,
I mean, he's a super insecure. He was super insecure. He still is a little bit insecure, at least from what he said in the interview about this album that I saw. And he had a lot of fear, like the fear of moving away from his family, the fear of not living up to worlds. Like he is kind of a fearful guy, and this song is kind of him like saying, fuck that. Like, I need to get the fuck over it because it's only hurting me.
Yeah. And it does. Like, I'm very glad that he was able to get past it, because it gave us this album.
Yeah. It's a phenomenal album. It's something that's very comforting. And I'll come back to it time and time again to just feel okay.
Yeah. And we'll also talk about track 11, Something Comforting.
Bro. This song though. This fucking song though. Oh god, it was the second single for this album, and this is the one where I'm like, yes, this album's gonna be fucking great. Because like Get Your Wish came out, I wasn't super feeling it. Again, I kind of had that like I want to hear how it fits in the album kind of thing. Something Comforting drops, and it's just like, nope, I have no more questions. This song is perfect. I love it. It's I can't express in words how much I love this song. This is the first song he wrote for Nurture, and what really kind of like pulled him out of that rut that he had. It's my favorite song on the album. It's my favorite song maybe of all of Porter's music. It's just it blows me the fuck away. It starts off with this like fuzzy static again. It has another like kind of guitar driven melody, which is it's an emulated guitar sound, by the way.
Yeah.
He didn't play any of the guitar on this album on guitar. He had like a guitar sound for his piano, but the synths kind of drift in and they kind of lift the song a little bit behind it. The vocals are mostly his natural voice, and then the chorus comes in with his bass line, the drums kind of grow, and then his pitch shifted voice comes in, and the song just fucking goes off and becomes like the most danciest fucking track in the world. The melody is just so good. I love the melody so much. The song calms back down, and the two voices kind of like do a duet in the second verse, and then the sick break beat comes in and builds it back up for the second chorus. But instead of going hard, it strips it all away, and it's this lovely piano section with his high pitched vocals that cuts back and forth like to his natural vocals, with the synths kind of giving like a half speed kind of feel, and then it pops off again with the lead melody, and it's just it fucking rocks. It's insane. And then the outro, he kind of like takes it back again, and it sounds like he's just like playing with a switch to turn on and off his vocal filtering and effects and stuff that switches between his natural voice and his quote unquote nurtured voice, where he's kind of like hinting at like, even though he's been duetting with this other voice in the song and throughout the album, they're both him and they're both parts of him that kind of make him who he is, kind of a thing. And it's just, I fucking love it. Everything about the song is phenomenal. It's a fantastic song. Go listen to it.
Yeah, it was that touch at the end where he's switching back and forth that I was just like, this is fucking. He's stripping it away. He's saying like, I'm overcoming the fear, the anxiety that I have about all of this,
right?
And I'm taking away the barrier, which the barrier I guess was the fixing of his voice or whatever, or the pitch shifting of his voice. It's like, you're listening to me talk to you right now, and it was just, I mean, after hearing 10 tracks of just vulnerability, personal stuff before this, it's just great to hear him like, okay, it's all coming, it's the curtain's opening now, you can see right through. And that fucking main melody, that super breathy synth that plays it,
so good.
It's just so nice.
So good.
It's such a great sound.
It is. Just head over heels for this track. This is what music should sound like all of the time.
Just every music that happens.
Is just this song.
And the fucking opening line of this song is such a relatable feeling.
Yeah.
It starts, if I send this void away, have I lost a part of me? Which, hearing him say that, it means a lot.
For sure.
I don't know. Like, anybody who has struggled with, I feel like any sort of mental issues in their life, I feel like it's a universal thought that it's like, I want to fix this, but if I do, am I losing part of who I am?
Right.
And it's that struggle. It's like, do I stay uncomfortable and quote unquote me, or do I try to break out of this and become a new person that's different, just a new do I become a new person or whatever? And it's a crucial moment in anybody's journey for mental health, I feel like.
Right. I think there's definitely that context, that connotation to that line, where he's talking about like getting rid of the negativity or the dwelling kind of thing. But it's also in context of this album, like I said, this is the first song he wrote for Nurture, and he wrote it, I think, before any of the Virtual Self stuff even.
Mm-hmm.
This is where he started coming back from that kind of depth, and during that depression kind of thing, he was constantly talking about like quitting music. And so I think part of it was like, okay, well, if I just condemn music and stop becoming a musician, kind of thing, if I send the whole musician part of me away, kind of thing, how does that make me feel? Which obviously is not great, kind of a thing. So I definitely think there's like just the negativity and like fixing yourself and compartmentalizing that and saying, okay, if I'm no longer a sad boy, what am I? But also like if I no longer write music, like am I gonna be okay with that? And
Yeah.
He wasn't, thankfully. But yeah, the song is like the song that sums up Nurture perfectly. I think both musically and lyrically. It's like I don't know. There's he had like so much pressure after Worlds, and he wanted more of that, more of the success that Worlds gave him. But also like he's not into that. That's not who he is, and that kind of conflict of like saying I want more, I want more. There, even though it fucking kills me because it's not who I am. There has to be something wrong with me, kind of a thing, and it's fucking hard. Not that I can speak from like my own experience of being a successful musician and then trying to top that, but like that's gotta suck.
Yeah, it's just sorry, I was taking a drink.
Take a drink. Stay hydrated.
I just like it's. I mean, I guess us normal people. No, I don't want to say that. I don't want to. If Porter does listen to this, I don't want to have that. You're a great
you don't
dude.
want Porter to criticize you?
No, I don't want him to like. I don't know. I feel like us normal people down here have these problems that are relating. Like I don't even want to joke because hearing the stuff that he's talked about on the album, like
This album is so relatable.
yeah, like he's a very just normal guy that's just like, hey, I just make good music, and now all these expectations and shit are just thrust upon me, and like, can I live up to what I've created,
Right.
type thing. And like, I don't know, this is a song that's like, I don't know, if you deal with like not handling expectations well or not handling your own success well because you don't know if you're going to be able to keep it up, or you don't know if you deserve it, or you don't know if it's like everybody's going to catch on to the fact that it's you're just kind of faking it or something. If you feel that, like, this is just a great song that encapsulates, I mean, this whole album really, but this is, for sure, like you said, this is the song that like it wraps it up nicely, I feel like.
Yeah, and it's a fucking banger. I fucking
Hell
love
yeah.
it. This track it's so good. I love it. I love everything about it. Track number 12, Blossom, takes it.
Awesome.
It's Blossom is awesome. It is. It's a very like it's so lovely. It's just like a very romantic, lovely guitar ballad. Again, it's not actually on guitar, but it sounds phenomenal. The fuzzy like the nature static that I'm going to start calling it remains on this album. There's no synths, there's no beat, there's no extra instrumentation. It's just him, the guitar / piano, and his like pitch shifted alter ego kind of a thing.
Yeah,
and it's very interesting how he like selectively chooses which voice is prominent on which lines, and the mixing of that is just it's such a lovely like wholesome song. I love it.
Yeah, this song, this is the love song that I'm assuming you were saying. Yeah. Like, that's not Sweet Time isn't the love song. This is the love song.
Yeah, for sure.
And nice little tidbit of information. It's called Blossom because I guess his girlfriend's name, the inspiration for the songs that are in this vein, translates to pear blossom, I believe is what it said.
Yeah, that's what Blade City says on 7 days
ago.
Oh
my god, I'm fucking citing unverified information over here, guys. I'm spreading fake news.
I didn't say that as a way to like discredit you. I'm sure Blade City was legit. I just thought it was funny.
Blades, that's actually Porter Robinson's alt account on Jeans. Yeah. He forgot to switch.
I really wish that was the case. He has this edgy alter ego that he uses online called Blade City. But yeah, lyrically, I'm not crying, you're crying is the first thing that I wrote, because it's just so like it's so wholesome, right? Yeah. The song's about his girlfriend and how he just wants her to be happy, and to that end he kind of like criticizes himself, like I mentioned, at like the halfway point where he's always absent-minded, or he's been absent-minded while she's just there like trying to be happy in the moment, and trying to keep him grounded, kind of a thing, while he's off like lost in thought of like how am I gonna top what I've been? How am I gonna do this? How am I gonna do that? Kind of a thing. He also kind of makes a callback to the content of Worlds, repurposing them for the scenario where he says that he's just gonna build a new world just for them that not even gods can give them or whatever, and he just like he wants to spend the rest of eternity with her, but that's not going to be the case, and he's kind of like accepting it for the last like 2 sections of the song. They're just like gut punches to me, where he says, but then you said, don't think of the time that's left, you're spending it in your head. I just want you laughing, I'm sorry for crying, I just want you happy, so at last goodbye, I'll be happy just to have known you, and we wished each other well. Which is like, it's like you said, it's fucking poetry, it's fucking beautiful, and like the sentiment, the rawness, just everything about the song is just a fucking gut punch to me. It's beautiful.
It's very much a reminder to be like, stay in the moment. You're with people who, I mean, not everybody's with people who care about them at all times, but like when you are, stay in the moment. Don't be thinking about like other shit that's like off in your own head, off in your own little world. Like you're in a world with this person right now,
right?
And be in it. And in a way, he talks of creating a world.
Yep.
He creates it through music like this, which is, I mean, I don't know. And it was just a thought that I was having. Like, you can see on the album cover where it's got like the squiggle, and then the picture has or it's like a single cover. I don't know. The song wasn't a single, but it's got a picture.
Covers for all of them as if they were singles.
Yeah, it's like a picture of, I'm assuming that's her picking like some sort of like dandelions or flowers or something. Right. But it's like he's written this beautiful song, put her in the song on the cover, like they're having conversations in this, and it's like in that music that he's making, he's creating, at least if not a world, it's a capsule for what they're feeling, I guess, as at least a way to put it in some sort of like real form out there, I guess.
Something tangible.
Yeah. And it's this song is just beautiful. Like I can't, I don't know how else to describe. I'm not good enough with words to accurately describe what the song is.
Yeah. And dude, you watched the Secret Skies set, right?
Oh yeah, I did.
He played Blossom, and he transitioned to the fucking sample from Goodbye to a World from fucking Worlds, and God, it's so perfect. It is so good, and this kind of leading into something that like I want to talk about at the end of the album. So I guess I'm not going to talk about it here. But like, this song, it's so fucking good, and it's so like, it's good.
And also on that note, watch Secret Sky.
Yeah,
if you listen to the album and you like it.
Yeah, if you like Nurture, you will definitely like his 2021 Secret Sky set. I also recommend his 2020 Secret Sky set because that was fucking fun as hell in a lot of different ways. But if you like Worlds and you like Nurture, like definitely check out his 2021 set if you haven't, because he does a lot of like what I guess are being called Nurture edits of songs from Worlds, and it's such a good set. It's phenomenal. Go check that shit out.
Yeah, it's be sure to just unfold, lay back, enjoy it.
Yeah, just chillax. Talk about track number 13, Unfold.
Boom.
With totally enormous extinct dinosaurs.
Whoa, we haven't seen them since the Banks album. I think. Was that the last time we saw them?
Oh, was he on that album? See,
I'm pretty sure.
I don't fucking remember.
That's where I remember him.
Oh yeah, he is. He produced like half that album, it seems. So that's cool. At least half that album, maybe all of that album. I didn't know that until just the second. but yeah.
I know things.
But yeah, this is like the only collaboration he's done for his own music. I say that because I recently found out that he was a collaborator on Zed's Clarity, which is like the biggest fucking electronic dance song in the world. And I didn't know that he was involved in it, but apparently he was. But yeah, so this is the only like collaboration he has done for his own music with his own name, kind of a thing on it. It starts with Teed. I'm just gonna say Teed because I don't feel like saying it every time. T does the intro, and then like Porter's pitch vocals come in the verse with kind of like some sparse music, and then there's this like lovely big Worlds-esque chorus with both of them, and then the song falls away again for the bridge, and it just amplifies the Worlds vibes that I get from the song. There's some quick samples and some super like high pitched vocals, and then bam, you get Sea of Voices 2.0 pretty much. It's just like this wall of sound. It's fucking beautiful. The outro of the song is incredible. It's got like a mix of nice delicate sounds and like spacey lasers and tearing and stuff. Like, I think this is the most Worlds-esque song on this album.
I would agree, and I think like I don't know, what was it? I guess it was Porter was talking about it. Like Teed said that he liked World, so I could imagine it's like him liking that and them collaborating. There could like if that's what he was like drawn to, and I mean obviously he hadn't heard Nurture because it hadn't come out yet,
right.
So they're like I guess going in that direction, but.
Yeah, and I think even musically, the fact that it is the most Worlds-esque sound has a purpose, and I'll talk about that again at the end.
Yeah, it's I don't know. You described this song really well. Like it's got like the glassy, soft key, like very spacey.
Yeah,
at the beginning, and this is one where you mentioned something about this album being nostalgic in general, and I know he mentioned nostalgia in Musician, but this one I was like, Porter fucking called me out. Like,
you're just this is actually the first track that I noticed him. He like straight up was like, Joey's gonna be attacked by this. Because he says in the first verse, Porter says, I put my pictures down, they're not as good as the real thing. I wish I could go home. You're just nostalgic. What do we wander from and only notice it now? So be here with me.
Yeah,
which again, it's kind of echoing the sentiment of like wanting to be in the moment instead of trying to like live in the past or trying to like rekindle whatever that feeling was, because that feeling is gone. So the song kind of builds on that, and I think it's fitting because it's kind of building on that it's kind of world sounding. He's talking about trying to recapture the feeling that he had when Worlds was such a big success. And spending time dwelling on how to get back to that moment and try to recapture that in a song that kind of sounds like that kind of era thing instead of being present. He kind of does this interesting thing in the song, which maybe I'm just reading into it a bit much, where it's kind of like an implied cryostasis thing, where he's at least mentally frozen in time, and now he's thawing out and trying to be more present. So it's like Worlds happened, and he froze himself to just try to like relive that time and to never progress forward. And now he's kind of like realizing how harmful that's been. So he's thawing out, as he says, and trying to be more present. And he's ready to live again because the fucking ice is melting around him. And he's just like, yeah, I'm alive now.
Yeah, this song very much felt like a transitional song. Like, I don't know, at this point in the album, on my first listen, especially on my first listen, I mean, it still happens but it's like I feel like this is the perfect second to last track for this album.
I feel like this is a good ending track, with exception of the last track on this album being a better one.
Well, yeah, I feel like it leads into it as like this is, I don't know, this whole album has been like his new sound, his new like who he's discovering, and this is like, yeah, like you said, it's like a little chunk of Worlds. It's like the last little bit, and he's the end of it, especially like he's breaking out of it, and he's coming out on the other side.
Yes.
It's like his transition to his current self, or the future him, who he's wanting to be, and who he is becoming, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm gonna loop back to that a little bit after we talk about the next track, Trying to Feel Alive, which I kind of inadvertently kind of got to when I was talking about the lyrics where I said he's ready to live again. But yeah, track 14, Trying to Feel Alive, the last track. This one, to me, and the only reason that I kind of went against what you were saying about Unfold being a good penultimate track, is that this one feels like an end credits track, whereas Unfold was like the big dramatic conclusion of the movie kind of a thing. Trying to Feel Alive is just like okay, now it's time to like relax and go back to your life kind of a thing. It's which I guess makes it a better ending track to an album. But seeing as I guess the way my mind was thinking of this album as like a movie kind of a thing, trying to feel alive, is just like the end credits going off.
Yeah,
It's got some like, oh,
oh no, I was. It's like it's more like the continuation of what happened at the end of the movie
yeah,
rather than the end of the movie.
right. It's just got some like soft, simple piano keys and like a toy xylophone kind of instrument going on. There's like some really warped vocal samples that I couldn't really understand. It's got a nice drive to it. It sounds like super lovely. Just everything about it is lovely. Everything about this album is just lovely. Lovely is a great descriptor for a lot of it. There's like a choral section kind of thing that he fades in with some effects, and I don't know. It just like it's a good ending track in that it kind of hits on a lot of sounds and feelings that were experienced throughout the whole album. And Porter only uses clean vocals on this one, which is pretty awesome, I think. As far as like a narrative context, anyway.
Yeah, like this is, I don't know, where life, like I had originally said, I feel like I'm in the field where he's at. I feel like this is he broke out through the other side to who he is becoming in at the end of Unfold, and now he's in that field, like he's laying face down in the field because he just like
he thawed
out of the sky.
Yeah, he was an ice cube that fell from the sky into
and
the
he's
field.
just like, poof, I'm here now. This is where I'm at. And
I like it.
But like, I don't know. Yeah, it's just lovely. Like you said, it's just fucking lovely. I mean, this song, it starts off, it sounds like there's like birds chirping. I don't know if it's actually birds or if it's just some sound, but it hit my mind as birds. Yeah. And there's like a happy little robot sound, like kind of starting to sound off, because it's just got like some kind of like little boppy sounds that just make me think of a happy little guy. And I don't know, man. I like
at this point, little robots were I guess sad little robots were a thing in Worlds, so now they're happy,
dude,
because he's building his own thing. So yeah, I guess to quickly get to the full thing, lyrically, I got that this one's kind of the conclusion of his journey, and him reflecting on how he's changed and what that means for him, and he's realized that he doesn't really feel satisfied with achieving success, but he likes having something to kind of strive for. And the ending kind of echoes what I've heard him say in like interviews and stuff, that he's just striving to bring quote unquote warmth to people in the songs that he writes, and that's what he lives for, is making songs that make other people feel things and relate to, which this whole album, fucking 10 out of 10. you hit the nail on the head with it.
Man, I can't wait to talk about this album at the beginning of 2022 at our first episode.
Dude, okay. So, Porter tweeted saying that Worlds was in third person and Nurture is in first person. And after like my first listen, I was like, okay, I think he means that in Worlds he's talking about changes he wants to see happen, right, in the music industry and in his life or whatever. And then Nurture, it seems like he's actually like trying to make the changes himself. He said goodbye to the world at the end of the last album, and Nurture would theoretically then be him making his own. I don't think that's necessarily true now, but that was kind of my initial thing. But I feel like there's still a narrative between the two albums, with Worlds kind of ending the way it did, where he's setting off to build his own world, and maybe the first 12 tracks of this album have kind of been him reconciling stuff so that he can get to the good part of making his own world. And then so he kind of wakes up and Unfold, and it's still very Worlds-esque sounding kind of a thing, where he's like he's been in that moment of time thinking about what's going to happen when he thaws out, and now he's thawed out. And so I think the next album theoretically would be the world that he creates, even though each one has been its own world per se, like because the intention of Worlds was to get away from EDM and get away from like overproduced things. And this album and Worlds are not really EDM music as they are, but like I don't know, I feel like it's interesting to have that kind of connection. There's so many connections to Worlds, even though Nurture is very much a more developed sound, and it's the next step, but it's still very much a part of him. And I think that's something that he doesn't like he's not trying to hide who he was with Worlds per se. He's just trying to grow from it and deal with all the shit that comes after it. I do think that nurture nature is a huge thing, specifically just because of the things he's said about it and him getting more comfortable with his natural voice, which again, Trying to Feel Alive is just his natural voice. There's no filter on it. There's no like pitched. I mean, I guess there's some like reverb and stuff, but it's not like his high pitched voice that he usually has and stuff. So like I think both his natural voice and his synthetic voice are kind of like an aspect of nature versus nurture. But I think it also comes in, like I kind of said earlier, I teased, and by teased I mean straight up just spoiled my notes, saying that the kind of like raw piano is a more natural sounding versus a lot of the electronic driven stuff in the album. So there's again kind of the nurture nature there, and then all of the single covers and stuff being squiggles contrasted with pictures of nature and stuff, and the music videos, just like all of it, like I don't know. I think the whole theme is like the whole nature and nurture, but it has so many different applications of what nature means and what nurture means within context of his music and this album. And this album's a fucking 10 out of 10. Listen to this fucking album.
So I don't entirely know where I stand on what this album like is supposed to mean, because you sent that out, like you sent it to me, because I don't follow people on Twitter or anything or see what they say, but you did send me that screenshot of what he had said about Worlds being third person, this being first person,
right?
And a lot of me is in your camp, and but there's also a part of me that like thinks that Worlds, it's third person because he's trying to create a world. He's trying to create something outside of
himself.
Yeah, and it's like he's an observer, I guess. Like he talks in this about, I mean, and especially in Blossom, about being in his head. He's spaced out. He's not living in the moment.
That's true.
And so that's like the third person from Worlds, because he has that mindset. And then now that he's written Nurture and he's like processed that, the first person is him coming to the realization that he doesn't necessarily need to create a world because he's in one.
Yeah, that's
worth living at this point, and that's the first person aspect, I guess.
I definitely agree with that, and I think that thought did cross my mind. I just forgot to put it in my notes because I don't write my notes until the day of the podcast or the day before the podcast, but I listen to the album and I think a lot of things, and that's something that I need to work on, I guess, because a lot of things that I think while I'm listening to music, I mean, I guess I don't really need to worry about it because usually you come up with the other things that I think that I don't write down, but yeah, I definitely picked up on that as well, with it being like him realizing that he doesn't need worlds anymore. He just needs himself. He needs the people around him, and he doesn't need to like he doesn't need something as big as worlds, both like literally and metaphorically, and that like he doesn't need that kind of success, and he doesn't need to make a literal world kind of a thing to live in it. But it's fucking great. Porter Robinson, what a fucking guy. He like he's so humble, he's so human, he's so like wholesome.
He has definitely made like this time since the album has came out just a very nice, pleasant, introspective, and I don't know, just great time, like musically. And it's just, this has been, I'm very glad that we did this album. I'm very glad that it happened with timing, that we got 2 weeks to listen to this album before we started talking. Like we had extra time to think about it. I'm just glad. I'm glad that we got to do this.
Me too,
together.
Man. And I'm glad to be here in this moment with you.
Yeah, it's just great.
It is great. We're having fun. We're enjoying our time. We're not thinking about success. We're just we're living, man. That's all Porter wants us to do. Porter, if you're listening, I love you.
Yeah, me too.
Marry me. Don't marry me. You have a girlfriend that you're presumably getting married to.
Yeah, I did read something about him wanting, like, he was like, it's time that I propose. I just want to do it after the pandemic. So.
Yeah, which I get. I respect that.
Yeah, because then you can actually have a big grand old time if you want to. Go wherever you want, travel to wherever you want. If you don't, even if you don't want a grand old time, I mean, there won't be surely travel restrictions will be lifted after it's over.
Yeah.
I don't know. So you can, yeah, hopefully they're not just like, no, our life is better without people traveling here.
Without you damn Americans. But yeah, fucking shit. Fantastic album. This was a fun discussion, fun album to think about, to listen to. I'm gonna keep listening to this album.
Hell yeah, me too.
It's fucking great. Next week, what are we doing? How are we gonna live up to the success of our discussion on Nurture?
Well, I'm gonna key into a little bit of information, Jeremy. We're not, but I don't know. So the album we're listening to next week is by Gold Panda, and the album is called
Good Luck and Do Your Best.
Good Luck and Do Your Best. See, so I haven't listened to this album. I've listened to, and still do listen to, a lot of, he has 2 other albums, Lucky Shiner and Companion, that I listened to quite a bit of. Good Luck and Do Your Best. It came out in 2016, and I listened to it a decent amount and liked it. Didn't entirely know how to feel about it, but I remember my last impressions of it being good. Like, I was coming around to it. And then for some reason I stopped listening to it, and there were just parts of the more experimental, like especially on Wind Tempos, kind of like, that's where I first had the thought that's like, I want to do this. So we're
doing it.
Yeah, we're doing it.
It called out to you, and now we're going with the winds, man. We're fucking feeling it out. We're doing it all. Next week, Gold Panda, Good Luck and Do Your Best. We're gonna wish ourselves good luck and do our best at existing until next week when we talk about it. But until then, give us some tweets, give us some comments, let us know how you feel about it. Porter, give us a tweet, give us a comment. I'd love to
give us a kiss.
Give us a kiss, give us a ring to get married to you. But no, fucking keep making music, man. If you're actually listening to this, like, your music's phenomenal. And even if it doesn't ever top Nurture, like, I'm sure it will be worth a listen because you're such a fucking genuine dude. And also, if you're Porter Robinson, stay on our feedback loop.